Mute when it's your turn to speak and then remute when you're finished. The first question goes to Preston Bobo. Mr. Bobo, the Stillwater City Council and the mayor have taken specific actions directed toward containing the spread of COVID-19, including mandatory masking and temporary business closures. How do you evaluate these actions? And if you were a council member, what, if anything, would you have advocated doing differently?
Great. So let me start by saying, I feel like if you were a council member, questions are very difficult for us to answer because council members receive countless emails from their constituents with their opinion. And ultimately, if elected, I'm going to be a servant of the people. I know that during the meetings, the city councilmen have said that they've received in emails from their constituents saying they have a desire this way or this way on these issues. My understanding of the COVID mitigation policies that the municipality has advanced are that they've been overwhelmingly positive. They've been overwhelmingly supported by the populace. So if that's true, right, I have no reason to believe that's not true, but if that is indeed true, if the emails coming from the constituents were, hey, we support this, this is what we want as a community, then I would have also advanced those policies. I think that, I guess my disappointment with the policies where I feel like they haven't gone enough is that we're shouldering a lot of the burden on our children in the schools. And so I would have liked the council and the city to have found more creative ways to curb the spread. Such as to not rely on the schools to curb the spread. But our death rate is, I think, the lowest in the state. And so obviously our policies worked, and that's my time.
You want me to just jump right into it, or?
Kevin, you're muted right then.
Yeah, you're muted, Kevin.
Yeah, Riley, go ahead and speak. We're going to restart the clock, but it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I'd probably on an island here with respect to most of the other candidates, I'd guess. I was severely disappointed with the way our city council reacted, and they didn't create non-essential businesses, but they certainly carried that idea forward. And I would have, I don't think I would have. It doesn't matter how many emails I would have gotten. I'm a representative, but I also don't expect to be babysat by my constituents. That's why they elect the representative. They maybe trust in your values that you've expressed. The values that I would express are the values and principles that founded our nation were based on freedom and rights given by God and secured by our Constitution. And even in a perceived or actual state of emergency, the enumerated powers are not suspended. And the idea that a business or a church should be shut down, that should be shut down. That idea should be shut down. I don't think there's a non-essential business. I don't think that controlling healthy people's physical movements via ordinance or mandate, I do not like that. And I think that's a bad idea. And so I would provide a voice for citizens that agree with that and that think that they know what is best for their situation and their health and their business. I would not rely on the soft bigotry of low expectations. I would actually encourage citizens to be informed and make the best decisions that they deem necessary.
Okay, thank you. Christie Hawkins.
Well, thank you very much for sponsoring this forum. And I will go on record and say I have been very supportive of the decisions that our city council and our mayor have made. In fact, it is one of the reasons that I chose to run for city council, and that is out of a recognition of how important strong local government is. I think we have seen that has rarely been more evident than over the past year. I feel like our city council and our mayor have provided outstanding leadership. I think they have had to make difficult decisions, certainly not popular with everyone, but for the collective good of our community. And so I am wholly supportive of that, and I am running for city council because I think this type of steady and thoughtful leadership is critical as we go forward, because we're certainly not out of the pandemic yet. And so in terms of what I would do, well, let me backtrack and say I'm also supportive of the fact that they have tried to implement grants to help the small businesses as we go forward, and doing things like the outdoor seating at restaurants, trying to expand that so that there are some additional options. So I don't know that I would necessarily have done anything different. I am supportive of what they have done, and quite honestly, as a citizen, I'm appreciative of what they've done. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Bryce Moody, you're up.
Hi, as a citizen, I definitely agree with what has been put in place by our city council so far. I think that it was needed. It did keep our hospital from becoming overcrowded at a time of when many hospitals around the nation were becoming overcrowded. I would definitely, as a city council member myself, I would definitely be paying attention to what my constituents were saying, and making sure that I'm not going to be going against their wishes. But you also have to keep in mind, you have to keep their health and safety in mind as well. That's where I stand on that.
All right, thank you. Ariel Ross.
Thanks. Like many others, I support the city council. I'm proud of the actions that they took. I think one misstep was in their early attempt to encourage people to wear masks in businesses. It seems like there was not enough support offered to the businesses in terms of how to work with customers to make sure that they abided by that. And so the city sort of backed off for a while and then eventually passed the mask mandate. I wish that there had been some more supportive business owners and employees earlier on. Like Preston, I agree that it's a real problem that children have been the ones bearing a lot of burden. And I feel like, while I wasn't privy to conversations between the university administration and the city council, my sense is we sort of sacrificed the kids in Stillwater for the sake of the university coming back in person. And that's so complicated because we rely on the university. My job relies on the university. So I would like to talk more about that. I'm not sure what decision I would have made, but that's something that's on my radar. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I want to ask one more time, is Mary Tetrick on the line? All right, then we're going to go on to the next question. I'm going to apologize to Preston Bobo, who should have been the second person on this next question, but because Mary's not here, you're going to get it first. Yesterday, the acting Secretary of Homeland Security issued a National Terrorism Advisory System bulletin due to a heightened threat environment across the country. This was done due to a variety of factors, including longstanding racial and ethnic tensions, as well as political unrest. What, if anything, should the city of Stillwater be doing to prepare for potential mob rule situation? Mr. Bobo.
Wow. Next time, if you could ask me a hard question, I'd appreciate it.
All right.
I know that this is something that's been on our radar for a long time. Last year, Christopher Wray, I think I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, with the FBI, said that white nationalist terrorism was the #1 threat to American national security, period. And so this isn't, I understand this was a declaration that was issued, but this isn't particularly new information. I have a lot of respect for our local department. The the police chief his son is a friend of my son's, and my son talks about them playing when they were in school in person all the time. And my understanding is that he's incredibly good at his job and has a good handle on these situations. Aside from that, all of my previous policing experience has been either medical, where I've trained with the Tulsa PD to do medical stuff, or chemical, where I used to take apart meth labs. And neither of those are applicable here. So that is I would trust that our local police chief is excellent at his job, and this isn't a new thing.
All right, Riley Flack.
Yeah, thanks. I guess as for a city council position or might be concerned, of course, we would, I consider police to be a core function of the city. So our police and their enforcement of the existing laws, that along with the coordination between the emergency management director, Rob Hill, and then also working with the Payne County Sheriff's Department. I don't foresee, as long as we enforce the laws we have, I don't see any problem at all. The only time in the summer where we saw any problems with riots or mob rule was in blue states where the police were called off and were told not to enforce the law. We just need to enforce the law and communicate with our city police, with the sheriff, and utilize our emergency management director. That shouldn't be any problem at all. I don't foresee. That's what.
All right, Christie Hawkins.
Well, first of all, as a city councilor, I would want to see what plans we already have in place. I would be shocked if our Stillwater Police did not already have plans in place to address this type of thing. And so I would first want to see what those plans were, study those plans, make sure I understood those plans, and then be able to have an informed discussion. I think the other piece I would say about that is we have had over the summer, we did have some very peaceful protests in Stillwater. I think that was certainly in part due to the fact that our police department were present, and helped ensure that they were peaceful. But I think, and then I think the other piece, just in terms of the domestic terrorism and the heightened security and the heightened awareness, I think this goes back to simply being a time that we need to focus on dialogue and talking and having discussions where we respect and hear other opinions. And I think that can go a long ways in terms of minimizing those types of conflicts.
All right, Bryce Moody.
I again would be looking to the police and seeing what they already have in place, because again, I'm sure they already have ideas in place, and for the most part, I know it is a potential issue, but I really, growing up here in Stillwater and knowing many of the citizens of Stillwater, I don't really feel that it would be a huge, major issue here. We're very easygoing people, it seems to me. But yes, I understand that it could be a potential issue, but again, I would be leaving that up to the police, really.
All right, Ariel Ross.
I agree with Bryce that it's a testament to the Stillwater community that it seems hard to imagine something like that happening here. But obviously you have to plan for things that you can't imagine. I think the city staff are so great at finding comparable cities to Stillwater and finding out what they're doing. And I'm guessing that a lot of other cities are having the same conversation. So I think it would be important to look at what, for example, other college towns of similar size are developing in terms of plans for that. I'm also interested in finding ways to respond to questions of domestic terrorism before they become a police issue. I do trust our police force here. I think we're lucky that we have a city manager now who's a former police chief, so he knows different sides of how to interact with the community in Stillwater. But I'd like to know how we can respond to this also outside the realm of law enforcement.
All right, Ariel, thank you. Now we're back on track. So you're going to go first on the next question. If elected, would you work to keep the city government on its current course, or do you see a need for significant changes?
That's a great question. I think the course is so much determined by what is happening. The past year has been really proof of that, that you can't necessarily foresee what you're going to have to deal with. But I think something that Pat Darlington has said a lot that sticks with me is that she feels like it's important for continuity on the city council. I think we can suffer from having to relearn things a lot. So I wouldn't propose a lot of changes right away. Sorry, it's something I was going to say and I forgot it. One of those moments. I think, you know, the city council needs to be responsive to citizens, to events, to the changing economic situation. So I would just say, you know, we shouldn't necessarily commit to a particular course. We should commit to the well-being of Stillwater, whatever that is.
Okay, Preston Bobo.
I think the current course is good. I think that there's some things that the pandemic has highlighted that probably need to be advanced. Something I've talked about at other meetings is, or other forums that I've been in, is municipal internet. I know that the city engaged in like a focus group for municipal, or a task force rather, for municipal internet a couple of years ago, and then didn't take any action on it. Now we've highlighted the need for municipal internet, and that just is absolutely something. In 2021 in the United States, it's appalling to me that cities don't have municipal internet. It's a service that absolutely everyone needs to do their jobs. And I can talk about that for the next minute, but I won't belabor the point. Aside from that, I think that we need to communicate better with the not only the citizens of Stillwater, and have more active communications from what the council and mayor are doing, but also have better communication with the what the state is doing. I feel like both of those communications can absolutely be improved. Just talking with the city councilors for the last year, I've been thoroughly surprised every time I've told them something that they didn't already know.
All right, very good. Riley Flack.
Yeah, thanks. I think we need substantial change. I would be of the mindset that businesses here in Stillwater, they need help from the city council, and not help in the way of regulation, not help in the way of mandates, and not help in the way of higher taxes, which all that is coming if we don't change course. This sort of wokeness that has crept into our city council, I think is dangerous. The costs on our waste program are going up because of recycling. The market fell out, and we're hauling glass all over town, which is sand, which actually hurts the environment. Just a little bit of digging into some of these issues, I think we'll find that the actual science and the actual right thing to do is not the where we're going. The solar program that's upcoming, that's going to raise everybody's rates, whether you use it or not, just like the recycling program. I think there's a lot of expenditures coming up with the rebuilding the call pipeline. And I think that we should refocus core services and reprioritize wants and needs. And I think that can go a long way with organically growing our city instead of hampering businesses with more costly regulations and mandates and taxes.
Okay, thank you. Christie Hawkins.
Well, again, I have gone on record and said I'm very supportive of our city council and our mayor. I think they have done a great job. I think as an incoming counselor, the idea of whether I would want to come in and make significant changes, again, I'll be honest and say I don't know enough to come in and say I want to make significant changes. I commit to coming in, doing my homework and learning, and most importantly, getting input from across the people, from people across the community, and coming to meetings prepared to have an informed discussion and prepared to make informed decisions. But without knowing everything that city council has going on, without knowing all the things that our city government has going on in terms of economic development, I certainly don't want to say I would come in as a new counselor and want to make significant changes. What I would say is I have looked over, we have a City of Stillwater strategic plan. We have numerous different utility rate studies and waste management studies. And so I feel like our council and our city government does an outstanding job of planning for things and looking at things and making sure in terms of utility rates, the rate study indicates we are basically about on average with other communities. And so again, I don't want to come in and upset the apple cart. I want to come in and learn and then be able to contribute to solutions.
Okay, Bryce Moody.
I'm gonna actually kind of agree with Christie on this one. I'm not looking to make huge changes. I mean, it's not my place really to make big changes unless those changes are coming from my constituents. If they want the change, then I'll push for it. But really, I'm as a new counselor, I would be looking to come in to learn and grow and make sure I'm doing my homework and studying up and being prepared to make decisions. I think we're on a great path with Stillwater. It's grown tremendously in the past 10 years, and I'm very proud of our city for what it's done, and I look forward to keeping it going.
Okay, next question goes to you, Mr. Moody. In recent years, we've seen the city make increased usage of tax increment finance districts. There is now talk of multiple potential property tax TIF districts at and around the old power plant. Do you support use of this economic development tool?
I am going to be 100% honest. I do not know much about these tools. I have been looking into them and trying to learn more. So right now, I'm not going to give an answer on that because I just don't know enough information on it.
Okay, Ariel Ross.
Yeah, I was actually, when I was on the Planning Commission, I was part of developing the downtown connector TIF. I think TIFs are an incredibly useful tool. There's something that I think Paul Dennison said once in a meeting, which has always stuck with me, which is that Stillwater is eligible for all of these grants, and also we can create TIFs because TIFs are designated for use in underdeveloped and blighted areas, and all of Stillwater qualifies according to that definition. That was a little shocking to me. So I think we need all the tools we can to help us find ways to support businesses so more businesses can open, to help collect more sales tax because that's how city business is funded. I particularly would like to look at the criteria for how projects are approved for the TIFs. I think the projects that have taken advantage of them so far tend to be larger businesses that are not necessarily local businesses. And I'd like to see more local business projects supported by TIFs.
All right, Preston Bobo.
Sure. I feel like this is kind of a complicated answer. So, I mean, philosophically, I support TIFs. I think they're fine. They have a place, but it's you have to use the right tool for the job. So the way TIFs have been implemented in Stillwater thus far has been suboptimal. It's very much a putting the cart before the horse scenario. So in the future, what we need to do is get the planning out there and be much more transparent with Stillwater. Let people know which businesses are planning on being or benefiting from these. And to echo what Ariel said, I know I'm pointing this way because this is where Ariel is on my screen. But to echo what Ariel said is that she's exactly right. As is right now, as they've been implemented now, a lot of big businesses have benefited from them. And that's because of how they were conceptualized. That's an issue that can be addressed in the planning development stage, and can then you start there and then move forward, and it will just the growth for Stillwater will be a lot better.
All right, Riley Flack.
Yeah, I would be against any TIFs. I think it's a sort of centrally planned, sort of Keynesian style of growth, and I don't think that's sustainable. I think the way to grow Stillwater and to bring businesses and support businesses is to offer a efficient government that provides quality core needed services, and then using that to draw business, and then allowing the economics, the free market, to bring in what comes. You know, the ingenuity of the human mind is what we have used to prosper as a nation. It wasn't through TIFs and government mandates. It's through risk that is rewarded by the free market. And I think when you deviate from that, you end up with a town like Stillwater that hasn't grown for 25 years, and it has so much potential. And I want to unlock that potential with tried and true free market principles, and not through crony Keynesian capitalism.
All right, Christie Hawkins.
Well, I mean, I think TIFs are actually can provide a very useful mechanism for municipalities to self-finance development projects without having to increase taxes. And so some of the advantages of stimulating economic development, some of the advantages include stimulating economic development in targeted areas, attracting business, adding jobs, and increasing property tax receipts. And so that increased revenue then can pay off bonds, it can reimburse investors, and it can be allocated towards new projects. I think disadvantages occur when TIFs are initiated in areas where they are not supported by the business and property owners in the surrounding area. And so, and I would say the other piece, that when successful, TIFs can result in gentrification and displacement of lower income residents. And so this can actually be addressed by ensuring that a percentage of the TIF revenue is used to preserve availability of affordable homes.
All right, thank you. You're first on the next question. How should the city council be evaluated? In other words, how should we as citizens measure your success?
Oh gosh, great question. I think the city council, first of all, I would say in listening in on some of their meetings, you know, they always have availability, a time for people to provide input. I think they also, maybe not as much during the pandemic, but in other cases have tried to provide avenues for people to give input. But I also think I'm a firm believer in metrics, quite honestly. And so I think it would be useful to see, and again, I'm not going to claim to have a lot of knowledge on this, but you know, what are the metrics that we define successfully moving our community forward. It may be the types of projects that have been completed. You know, we've had an enormous amount of projects completed for roadworks, for the sidewalk, going from Western all the way out to Boomer Lake at 6th and Western, and adding those types of quality of life amenities that people like. And so I think there's any number of ways that they can be evaluated in terms of their transparency, in terms of listening to the community, and then in terms of what projects move forward and are completed successfully.
All right, thank you. Bryce Moody.
I think the evaluation of the city council should be really based on the work they've been doing, and if that work is what the people of the city want. If they're going against our wishes, then we obviously know that. And if they're if what they're doing is working for our community, I think basically we've evaluated if they're doing a good job. That's kind of where I stand on that one.
All right, Ariel Ross.
Yeah. Well, I think voting is a really good evaluator. Beyond that, I think you can't evaluate as a citizen unless you're paying attention. So I advocate going to city council meetings, or at the moment, watching city council meetings, asking questions, going to public hearings, paying attention to the projects that the city has engaged in, and then checking back in to see where are they now. I've been doing some of that recently, like looking at studies, transportation studies, economic studies, and then seeing, okay, well, what has changed since then? What did they learn? How have they acted on it? So I think evaluation requires an engaged and informed citizenry.
All right, Preston Bobo.
I think this is a great question, because I feel like part of me believes that the council should be invisible to the general public, while part of me believes that the council should be more accessible. And so it's hard to find that exact balance of never having to interact with the council because they're doing such a fantastic job, and always engaging with them. I know I mentioned this earlier, but this year during the pandemic, we kind of got a new metric, and I think that Stillwater's death rate really does speak for itself. Of all cities in Oklahoma above 30,000 residents, we are, and this is off the top of my head, I think we're at like a third of the deaths of the next highest city. We're just, the way we've managed COVID has been superlative. Larger than that, we have some new tools this year, things like the YouGov, which is a subscription service that I understand that the council's been engaging in recently. That's great. It gives instant feedback from the citizens, and it increases that transparency. So those are all kinds of new tools that we have available to us, where we can just push out and get feedback from, again, the citizens that we're supposed to be serving.
All right, and Riley Flack.
Yes, sir. That's a tough question. I think I'm gonna pivot a bit from that question. I don't want to speak to how someone else should evaluate a counselor. Of course, they use their own worldviews and values and things. But I'll just give you how I evaluate our current council, and I look to like, do they honor their oath that they take? In particular, the first sentence. How have they impacted my life, whether good or bad? How are they spending our money, and on what? How available are they? Those are the things that I have used to evaluate my current council, and I'll leave it up to the voters and the citizens to use their own judgments on how to evaluate the next winner and the next representative.
All right, then you get the next question. Describe your vision for the city of Stillwater over the next 10 years. Where do you want us to be 10 years from now?
Yes, sir. I would like for our city to embrace the principles and ideas that we stand on today as the most prosperous nation that has ever existed. Being in one of the greatest states I've been in, living here 35 plus years, I would like to re-embrace the ideals of rugged individualism, of free markets, of low taxes, of individual responsibility and individual choices. And I think we have having such a large university and a great university, I think provides Stillwater such a great opportunity to grow and draw business. But I don't think that can be done, as we've shown the last 25 years, with game day economics or with with unfriendly business practices, which regulations and mandates and high taxes are unfriendly to business. I think getting back to allowing citizens to and businesses to choose more freely things they deem necessary or fit or worthwhile, that's where I'd like to see Stillwater go. And I think that's how we got to here as a nation, built on those principles. And I would like to revitalize those ideas here.
Okay, thank you. Christie Hawkins.
Well, I think one of the things I look at, especially for Stillwater, because I think Stillwater is just a quintessential college town. And so I think in terms of partnerships and not necessarily just the city of Stillwater and the university, but certainly I think those provide just an immense amount of opportunities. And I would actually use as an example the American Airlines getting a flight in and out of Stillwater Airport with American Airlines. That was a great partnership between the city of Stillwater and Oklahoma State University, and is not something that if the city approached American Airlines or OSU approached American Airlines separately, that probably would have happened. That it took that collaboration and teamwork from both entities to make that happen. And that was a game changer for the university and for the town. When you think about recruiting business as an industry to Stillwater, and for the university recruiting faculty and students, I mean, I just think it's a game changer for all involved, and we need to continue to look for those types of partnerships that are mutually beneficial to both entities. And I would say that my role at the university among all the candidates does uniquely position me to continue that tradition of partnerships and expand on it and make it even better.
All right, thank you. Bryce Moody.
I want to see Stillwater continue to grow, prosper, and I want to see them. I want to see us become a place to come to and to enjoy. I love our small town feel that we've always had, and I know we're not a small town, but we still have that small town feel. I want to keep that, but I also want to see us expand and continue to prosper and grow.
All right, Ariel Ross.
Yeah, I think about it in terms of things around Stillwater that kind of bum me out that I want to change. Like, I would like to see no empty shop fronts downtown. I would like to see that healthy and thriving. I would like more beauty. I'd like us to be in the position, sort of financially, to be able to focus on how do we make Stillwater more beautiful. I always wonder, where do high school students go in Stillwater? It seems like there's nowhere for them to hang out. I'd like places that they can go safely and get together and have fun, so that we have a sense of community among all of the generations who live in Stillwater. I would like OSU students to come here and want to stay here after they graduate because they don't want to leave Stillwater and there are jobs here for them. I want faculty to come to Stillwater and want to stay here for their entire careers because there's so much going on in Stillwater that they can't imagine wanting to go somewhere else. So a lot of really sort of specific things that I think would make Stillwater even better to live in.
All right, thank you. And Preston Bobo.
Sure. I really want to see Stillwater become the example of an Oklahoma City. And I think we're there. I think we're on like the teetering point, just about to cross over. So many advantages here. I know that Christie just mentioned the airport, which is huge. I just emailed John Talley. I don't know if anybody, just FYI, bills are up. You guys follow that? So John Talley is advancing an airport bill. If you care about that, please email him and tell him, hey, your airport bill, let's get this going, because that's a big deal for us here in Stillwater. With that aside out of the way, I'm surprised no one mentioned the new pandemic center, because again, that's a big deal for Stillwater. It's brand new, it's here, whether you like it or not, and I know that there's a lot of negative feelings about it, it's now here in Stillwater, and it's going to bring innovation to the city. So we're there. We're going to grow. Growth is coming. So aside from those things, I'd love to see like spring and fall evening events downtown. I work in Logan County, and so I'm familiar with Guthrie. Guthrie has a great tradition of this. And if we're going to go pie in the sky, I would love to see some music festivals in town that are more family friendly.
All right, Travis, I'm going to ask you to reset the clock for 2 minutes. We're going to proceed to closing statements due to the fact that we are down a candidate. We have a little bit of extra time, so we're going to give you all 2 minutes for closing. We'll proceed beginning with Ariel Ross. And you're muted, Ariel.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm so excited to be talking to Rotary people. I love Rotary. My dad was in Rotary my whole childhood, and I have lovely memories of going to morning meetings with him and eating breakfast before school. So thank you all for hosting. In terms of why I think I'm a good candidate, I think I have the most relevant experience to the City Council. I have served on the Planning Commission for 3 years. And so about half of the business that the City Council sees, the Planning Commission has seen before it. So I'm familiar with the type of reports they're making decisions about. I know the city staff. I've been in public meetings many times. I know how to talk to citizens about the plans that we're making for the city. I served on the Board of Adjustments, which is, similar experience. And then I've served on the Block 34 Trust, which, as opposed to the kind of nuts and bolts that the Planning Commission is, Block 34 has been a lot about making connections with cultural entities in Stillwater and dreaming about how we can envision like a center for culture in downtown Stillwater. Preston was talking about music festivals downtown. We've talked about that a lot, and about making Block 34 a place where we could do that. There's actually, maybe you know about this, maybe you don't, the Stillwater Community Center has been doing this Prairie Pandemic Relief concert series, which is starting up at the end of the month. So they have the facilities to do that. So I think between those two things, I'm ready to step onto the City Council now.
All right, Bryce Moody. Bryce Moody, there you go.
Yeah, I want to thank the Rotary Club for hosting with us. I very much appreciate you guys having us here. I feel that I would be a good candidate because, one, my family has a long-standing history in Stillwater. I'm actually a fifth generation Stillwater born. So we've loved this city we've loved this town for decades and generations. We like it here. We like to stay here. We like to see it grow. We want to continue that. I have experience as a nurse working with the pandemic, and I would like to put my input into the city council on how we're going with that. I really appreciate everyone's vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Christie Hawkins.
Well, again, as everyone has said, thank you to the Rotary for sponsoring this. I hope it has provided the voters some relevant information about all of the candidates. For those who have never met me, I have lived in Stillwater 35 years. I have lived here as a college student. My first job out of college, my undergraduate degree was secondary ed and math, and so I taught Algebra 2, Geometry, Trig, and AP Calculus, most of the classes that students never want to take, for a decade. And then I started working at OSU while I was teaching high school. It allowed me to finish my master's and my doctorate, and I took a position at OSU in 1999, so I've been there for about 21 years now. So what I think of when I think about running for city council, I know candidates run for a lot of different reasons, but I feel like the best candidates run because they understand that elected officials are simply public servants who want to make a positive difference and want to be part of the solution. My experience, my background gives me experience in leadership, in collaborating, in informed decision-making, and a commitment to service. And one of the most important things for an elected official is the ability as well as the desire to listen. I understand that important conversations are not always easy, that there are oftentimes dissenting opinions, and I'm okay with the idea of people disagreeing, but I think it's critical that we hear and respect all the diverse opinions. And most of all, I feel it is important that I would always be part of the solution to help Stillwater continue their progress. Again, thank you, and thank you for your interest in selecting the next counselor.
All right, Riley Flack.
Hey, yes, thank you guys for hosting this. I think it's quite the service you do and trying to engage the community in our local elections and local government. I think I was included in a severe lack of engagement. I was part of that group. I think when Mr. Wedlake was elected, there was 1,400 total votes, and I think that's whether I agree with or disagree with the things our council does, I think engagement being higher than that is a fantastic goal, and I think it's something that should happen. So something like this and these forums, I think, are very helpful, and I know that everyone here putting them on are donating time to do these things. So thank you guys for doing that. My name is Riley Flack. I have a wife named Lisa, and I have 3 little girls, 2, 7, and 10. I'm heavily invested in our town and love it to death. I really want to offer citizens who see or feel that their voices aren't being heard, citizens who think that they're being told too often to wash their hands, they need citizens that want to be treated like adults, responsible adults. I want to be a patriotic voice for those citizens. I was in the military. I have plenty of leadership experience and service experience. And I think that I would be able to offer a voice to a lot of citizens that haven't been engaged in our local politics, and that's why I'm running. And I appreciate you guys' time. God bless you.
All right, thank you. Preston Bobo, you have the final word.
Well, fantastic. Before the meeting, I know that some of you guys were discussing recovering from COVID. And so I know that I'm actually really concerned about myself recovering from COVID because, as you can see, I don't know what I would do with myself if I lost my sense of taste. You guys can be the judge of that, but that's a lot of my identity. I do want to circle back to the second question. The second question was about terrorism, and it was tangential to this issue, but this is a really important issue for me. And so I'm going to waste some of my time with my closing word to talk about this. A second Capitol Police officer has died by suicide after the coup attempt on the 6th. First responder suicide is a huge problem across the United States. It's a problem in Oklahoma. Tomorrow, the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse is starting a hashtag Are You OK program. I've already reached out to Norm McNichol and the Stillwater City Council and the mayor, and I understand that they have a program already in place and it's robust, and that we have some in-house mental health training, and we have a new mental health unit, and that's awesome. I want to ensure that continues, but I feel like I can't talk about first responders and terrorism and stuff without mentioning that, especially because it's happening tomorrow. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly now. I enjoyed hearing all the other candidates' responses. I want to say thank you to all the other candidates because, again, I'm closing this out. And thank you to Rotary for hosting this event. It's been great. I do want to single out Bryce, and judging by your demeanor, I'm sorry if this makes you uncomfortable, but thank you so much for being a healthcare hero during this pandemic. It's been a big deal. My family is at the hospital at least 3 times a week to provide support for you guys. We can't say thank you enough to you guys. And yeah, honestly, that's how I want to leave it, is thank you, Bryce, for being so amazing during the pandemic.
All right, thanks to each of the candidates for being here today. The election is February 9th. If no candidate receives a majority of the votes cast, the runoff election will be April 6th. I'm sure they're all looking forward to running 2 elections and not just 1. Most of the candidates have an online presence. Links to their pages are in this week's club email, in today's calendar entry on the club website, frontierrotary.com, and will also appear in our website post containing the link to today's video, which will be available sometime this evening. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to all our guests who were able to join us today. Thank you especially to our city council candidates, and thank you for your willingness to serve. I know all of us care a great deal about our city, and it's good to know that leadership steps forward in a time of need. Thank you again for being here with us. Stillwater Frontier Rotary will support literacy, and so we will be donating a book in the honor of the candidates today to the Stillwater Public Library. Please join us next week, everyone, for the Ward 5 candidates for the school board meeting. We're excited about that one. And if everybody would just join me for the 4-way test to close out the meeting. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you again, everyone. Our meeting is adjourned.
Thanks again to all the candidates for being here today. I appreciate it.